I'm absolutely loving that you guys are loving this type of content. And I'm loving that this announcement that was made last week at the 2024 St. Petersburg International Forum held in Russia last week is an additional proof point to the reason why I chose to build and live on the continent of Africa. So welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley. On my channel, Ashley in Africa, I share my experience of living, moving, and doing business on the continent of Africa. I currently live in South Africa, which is the S in Brics. And I live here with my two children. I'm the founder of Africa Investors Academy, which is a community of entrepreneurs all over the world building businesses with the intention of building and living on the continent of Africa, regardless of if you're just starting or you are a proven entrepreneur. Africa Investors Academy is a community that people find value in joining because we share information, political and economic information, as well as in-depth coaching to support you on your Africa journey. So if that sounds interesting, please be sure to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it. It's free with someone who finds value in it. So I'm jumping in because everything is changing very quickly for the US dollar. So many of you guys wanted me to talk on this, how Saudi Arabia just shocked the dollar. And how did they do that? Well, after a 50-year agreement, on June 9th of 2024, Saudi Arabia has decided to end their partnership with the US to only trade their barrels of oil in USD. The lucrative oil trade is now open to other countries and other currencies, guys. And in addition to this, there was a huge announcement made by President Vladimir Putin at the 2024 St. Petersburg International Forum held in Russia last week. And a new Brics system is on the way. This system is going to shock the US dollar. Essentially, it's going to challenge the US dollar payment system known as the SWIFT system, challenging the entire status of the US dollar's chokehold, basically, on the international payment systems. So at this summit, we're going to jump into this part first. President Putin said some really interesting words. Now, if you're living in the Western world, the media will have you thinking that Russia has been closed for business and is completely locked out to the Western world. But the reality is that their economy has essentially doubled, right? Like, that's a big word, but by the end of 2023, exports in Russian rubles tripled, guys. And they had this summit with over 17,000 attendees representing over 130 countries, where President Vladimir Putin laid out the economic future of the Brics payment system for global trade, guys. Woo! And just to give you a couple of pointers, this system says President Putin will be immune to political pressure, abuse, and external sanctions. That was his quote. So, the world where the U.S. is a superpower is officially over. It's officially over, guys. And there was a U.S. congressman that did an interview with our guy that was a Fox News guy, and I'm escaping his name, Tucker Carlson. It's that Carlson. Tucker Carlson. He interviewed U.S. Congressman Thomas Macy. And this congressman didn't sugarcoat a thing. Guys, I've got notes, so I'm looking up and down my notes. He did not sugarcoat a thing. And he basically covered the following topics, saying that before the US, Russia was seeing 70% of their transactions in USD, and after, less than 20%. of those transactions. He also talked about China and the sanctions that were placed on China around the microchip development. Well, China decided to invest in their own microchip industry, and it was the best thing that ever happened because they're driving innovation in this microchip space. And essentially, what this has taught the world, including U.S. You know, U.S. politicians, is sanctions weaponizing the dollar are opening a door to bigger issues, which is sending a message that playing with the U.S. dollar is no longer safe. And everybody said I was wrong, guys, but good thing I don't listen to everybody else. And so, whew, there was a little bit more. If you are finding value in this content, please be sure to like it. And I'll link a couple of links below for you to also reference and do your own research, because essentially I'm always going to advocate for you guys doing your own research. Again, and so sanctions, what does that mean, guys? For people that don't understand, when the U.S. sanctions you, essentially kind of puts your economy on hold. And by using sanctions and weaponizing the U.S. dollar, essentially the majority of the world no longer is up for this. Thus, the Brics payment system, thus all of these other economic shifts that are pushing people away from trading in USD. So there was an instance essentially where the US essentially violated international law by selling frozen assets of Russia and using those to purchase weaponry for the war in Ukraine. And while 9 out of 10 citizens of the US want the war to be over, the Democratic officials are making other plans. And these plans do have long-term negative implications. Because if other countries want to purchase treasuries, want to purchase debt, they now know that essentially that debt is not a safe investment. And again, we're not going to be seeing countries invest in the US as they have before. Even China has offloaded much of their debt purchasing gold. Instead, they're done with it. And so Congressman Macy quotes, when countries see US sell their assets, these bonds or treasuries, countries will no longer want to invest in the US. And not only is this theft, but it's immoral and it's short-sighted, and it is leading to the de-dollarization movement. So there was also, after this economic forum held in St. Petersburg, the Brics ministers got together and had their own summit. I'll also link a couple of statements from the Minister of Foreign Affairs here in South Africa, Dr. Naledi Pandor. She is just so captivating. If you're not familiar with her, I'll link some links below so that you can do your research on her as well. But there were some joint statements made by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and International Relations from the Brics countries, and there were about 54 points outlined, but there are 3 that I'm going to mention that I think are the most important. If you would like a link to that, you can Google, or you can click the link in the pinned comment to get access to the AIA Insider, which is an on-the-ground email newsletter written by me every week, sharing economic and political updates on the continent of Africa, specifically the countries of South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Ghana. I get around, Egypt. You can get access to that because our members get these type of insights and updates first. But there's 3 that I'll highlight. Number 1, the new financial system that I spoke about. This financial system is going to create an independent payment system that is to enhance the voice of every country that wants to develop and trade using their own currencies. And what's wrong with that? There was also the second point that was essentially the Israel Palestine conflict. And while 88% of the world supports Palestine's statehood, these 88% are also the same countries that are supporting the rise of de-dollarization with the growth of Brics. And we know the US has made a stance essentially by not making a choice that they will continue to support Israel. And who is on the right side of history? I don't know. But if 88% of people want to see this genocide end, they are also going to be making a statement and have been making a statement with the use of their economic power. And that economic power is looking more and more like de-dollarization by the day. And the third point that was highlighted by these ministers of foreign affairs and international relations was the end of U.S. sanctions. No, wow, yeah, I'm going to quote this one because this one is very clear. But while they did not use the words United States, I think it's pretty clear who they're talking about, right? The ministers recognized the negative impact on the world's economy and sustainable development from unilateral approaches in breach of international law. They expressed concern about the issue of unilateral coercive measures, which are incompatible with the principles and the charter of the UN and produce negative effects on economic growth, trade, energy, health, and food security, notably in the developing world. Who are they talking about? I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave me some comments below. If you've got an interest in getting these updates first from me, written by me, join us in the community at the AIA Insider email community. You can get the link, access to that in the pinned comment. Would love to share it with you. But I also want to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Until the next video, I'll see you soon.